Hey guys, we've got a Gillette Silver Blue blade. Not too many uses on it. This will be the 10th, it looks like. I'm going to be putting it in the dart, the Blackland Razor's dart. It will have a shim in it. This is my first time shimming anything. We'll talk about that more later. B5 knot from Declaration Grooming in a vintage, kind of restored Rubberset 400 handle. Really enjoyed this setup. I've had it soaking for a few minutes. Number 63 from PDP, as in Prix de Provence, a French soap, quad milled vegan soap that will last you a very long time. Doesn't cost a lot. The lather is not spectacular. Definitely doesn't compete with the American artisans like Barrister and Mann and Holy Cow and Noble Otter, Declaration Grooming, even Sterling. But Sterling's tallow, and this is vegan. But it's inexpensive and it'll last you a very long time. Smells great. I love the scent. And so since it's one that I have recommended often as a starter soap, as a budget soap, I wanted to put it through some usage tests so I could see how I could kind of predict how long a user might be able to expect to be able to have it and enjoy it, how many shaves they can get from it. And so that's my goal. Today, I'm going to repeat something I did in the past. I'm going to unfold this razor blade while I talk about it. I used this same brush, but it was sopping wet at the time to do the Marco method. Or something akin to the Marco method, where you come at it with a wet brush, you load for quite a long time with light pressure, just the tips, get kind of a slurry going, and then you face lather. And it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Could it be these tips are too soft? The brush is very dense, so there's lots of tips. That's not the problem. Was there too much water? Maybe the softness of the tips with the water was just not agitating enough to cause, even though I soaked the soap for several minutes prior to the shave, maybe it just didn't pick up the soap. So we're going to back off of the water in the brush. And so I think that'll help us to have better success with our face lathering today. So let's talk about the shimming. This dart is the machined version. So you can see how it has machining marks and things like that. I find that it was a little bit smoother, considerably smoother than the polished version for me. So what I did to make a shim was I took an old blade that I had thrown away and I just cut the sharp blade part off. It was difficult to make an accurate cut, and so it's definitely a messy looking shim. And so if this doesn't work well, it could be my skills at this. I have heard that you can also use other materials for your shims, like old credit cards, that sort of thing. And so I may do that. Maybe a little bit easier to cut that plastic than this metal. Now, I think most often shimming is done to increase the aggression level. When you have a razor with multiple base plates, changeable base plates like the Rockwell, the Carve Christopher Bradley razor, the Wolfman, Timeless. In many cases, they will just raise a spacer right here, and then when you put your blade on it and then put the top cap on, basically that moves the safety bar here away from the blade edge, increasing the gap, increasing the space there. That increases the exposure of the blade, how much the blade sticks out from between its top covering, the top cap, and its bottom covering, the guard. And so if you put the shim on the bottom of the blade, often it will make it more aggressive. Well, I want the opposite. I want to smooth this guy out because I love the beauty of the dart, but it is a tricky blade for razor for me to use because I usually have to bring the handle in because it's just it's right at that too aggressive point for me. And so I'm going to put it on the top cap first, the shim on the top cap first. And notice the shim doesn't go over the side of the top cap. Then I'm going to take my blade, put it on top of the shim. oriented in the normal way with the handle down and the top cap up, then I'm basically putting the shim above the blade. But since we're assembling it upside down, the shim goes under the blade. So instead of creating more gap between the blade edge and the safety bar here, hopefully what we're doing is creating a tiny gap, extra gap, between the blade edge and the top cap right near the edge there. Now, I don't know if that's going to work out. I may not be able to change, sense or detect a change at all. Maybe I need a thicker material. Who knows? But this is just a little try to see what happens with that. All right, I'm going to throw some water on my face. 24 hours of beard growth, and this water is hard water. I will be dipping the brush tips in. I don't believe I'll use my syringe today. Kind of in the tradition of face latherers. We're going to do a face lather today, and I will just kind of I have my lather bowl right here, but it's just got water in it, so I can dip my tips of my brush in there. I loaded for 30 seconds with a soft Badger super high density from Maggard, and I'm going to shake off some of the water. Not as much as I usually do, but I'm also not leaving as much as I did the other day. I had a 30-second load with that Maggard SHD, and it gave me 7 passes of lather when I was bowl lathering. So let's lather for 30 seconds with this guy and compare the results. Okay, 57, 58, 59, 0. Let's do 30 seconds of loading and just see. And I'll do normal pressure. I'm not going to do the light pressure thing I did yesterday. We'll just kind of do it's not a Marco, it's just more like a face lather. And it definitely is responding better than it did the other day. Got that early frothy, very airy and bubbly right away. And there's 30 seconds of loading right there. All right, so I'm going to take the soap puck, rinse off the sides of it. I did discover with this soap, I usually am better off running it a little drier than usual. And now I don't have to start working with the bowl at all. I just take this soap concentrate, start working my face, and hopefully we have loaded enough soap on the brush to start something happening as the soap starts to combine with the water in the brush already. It is being very slow to wake up, so why don't we load for another 10 seconds. Here we go. There we go. Starting to come alive a little bit. If you have a super soft brush and you like the way it feels, that's one of the benefits of face lathering. You definitely get a lot of contact time with your face and the brush. I tend to enjoy the consistency of lather that I have with bowl lathering a little better, and so I don't face lather often. And this is a nice soft brush. It's got great soft tips, but it does have a kind of medium to medium high amount of backbone, and I am feeling that. It's definitely not feeling quite as nice as it does when I bowl lather and start off with on my face with the right concentration of lather. a benefit of face lathering is that your face acts as a sensor. Now I'm going to add a little bit of water to the brush just to see if that amps up my lather. Depending on how much you start off with in your brush, that may kind of tell you how much you're going to need to add, whether you need to add in smaller quantities, just a little bit at a time, you know, a few drops perhaps sprinkled from your fingers, or is it something a little bit more that you need because you didn't start out with as much in your brush. I often find that the face lathering is a lot more messy, see, there we go, than bowl lathering, at least the way I do it. This seems reasonable, so why don't we just go with it. And one thing I think I'm going to do is kind of gather up the excess from the areas that won't be shaved and put that on the brush, because this is holding the rest of the soap for 3 passes. It doesn't really look like much, does it? And that is another one of the potential weaknesses with face lathering. The brush has to hold all the stuff. So if you get a nice wet, slick consistency on that first pass, then the brush has to hold it all. All right, is this shim going to do anything for me? I have no idea. Let's just see what happens. Maybe ride the top cap a little bit. Because the shim doesn't come all the way to the edge, and see, this may be a bad lather to try this razor on, because this lather's just not as nice as the ones I usually am able to make with bowl lathering. And I discovered with the dart that I can help myself by bringing the handle in a little bit, riding the safety bar more, and that gives it a little bit of relief from the pressure on the skin. It's a little bit more scrapey sounding, and I think I am getting that sound because the shim doesn't come as close to the blade edge as the top cap does, and so there's more room for vibration. So a more precise shim may really make a difference. All right. Face lathering pass 2. Now that's valuable lather. Come on now. I'm going to run out of lather. So what if I just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? What if we just went back for 8 swirls? If the lather's feeling kind of wet on my face already, then maybe this can kind of combine with that wetness to give me some good lather. But again, you're kind of risking a bad, you're going to have to get good practice at that, because if you dry out your lather now, your performance is going to start to suffer. I'm going to dip a little corner of the brush in the water there. Sometimes the face lathering can be faster than the bowl lathering. In the beginning it may not be, if you're not quite good at getting the mix right on your face, you know. It is sometimes simpler because there's one less piece of equipment to use. You don't have to clean a bowl afterwards, but I mean, it doesn't really take any time. I mean, hardly any noticeable time at all. Okay, so now we will Well, I don't know that I can tell any difference with the shim except that it's more noisy. So I think maybe this shim is not doing me any favors. It is so scrapey because I'm having to ride the safety bar. I may end up with some irritation that I don't normally get. With some people, shimming is a kind of a common practice. And I could see why. Like, for instance, in many cases, I would just say, hey, use a different razor. But what if it's a razor that you really love the appearance of? You like so many other things about it, like this dart. I really enjoy it. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to smooth it out a little bit. So what if you're in that kind of situation? Then maybe shimming is a nice customizing tool that you can use. Well, the good news is I've gotten a decent shave in just 2 passes. It wasn't comfortable, but it was effective. Now let's just see what happens. See, this is all I've got for my 3rd pass. And note, and that was loading, you know, what? I did 30 seconds in the beginning. And then I did what? Another, I can't remember now. I know I did like 8 swirls at one point. Yeah, I did some more in between the 8 swirls and the first load. I know I did some more. 10 or 15 seconds, I can't remember. Maybe even 30. So that's with the Maggard SHD and bowl lathering, I was able to, with a lot less loading, have a lot more passes, and they were better passes. Yeah, I'm not enjoying this. Now, because my face is a little tender because of all this scraping, I wanted to see what this lather would look like. I don't really feel like wasting time trying to figure out how to face lather this stuff. Just not any fun. Just me. I'm trying to put forward some of the good parts about face lathering. But there's plenty of other guys out there who face lather pretty much exclusively. And so come to me for bowl lathering and some other guys. But, Michael Friedberg is a great YouTuber who likes to face lather almost always. And, Mantic 59, I believe Mark from Friendship Shaving, a cut above, Chris with a cut above. Pretty sure most of those guys will often face lather. And so they're going to have good information for you and be good face lathering people. Me, this tends to, because I'm putting on concentrate so often and trying to equalize the mix after the fact because I don't have enough lather, my face is ending up more dry than it usually is with instead of having made the lather and then just being able to use it and enjoy it. Now, let's be fair. If I had to keep face lathering, I'm sure that at some point I would learn better skills to be able to have enough lather to do the job from the beginning so that I wouldn't have to keep trying to come back with concentrate to fix it. If I have to fix it less, I'd probably like it a little bit more, and that would come with more experience. So I'm going to be fair and say, and I've seen some YouTuber with a lot of hits talk about bowl lathering. Well, he was a sucky bowl latherer. He's a face latherer, and so he would put a lot of negative on bowl lathering, but he didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't have enough experience, and so yeah. If you want to learn bowl lathering from somebody who sucks at it, then yeah, it's not going to go very well for you. So in the same way, I'm not going to speak ill of face lathering. I don't enjoy it at this point, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I try it every once in a while. The softer American cropes I have an easier time with face lathering than this hard guy right here. I think it's just a matter of the loading and all that stuff. I also like wet lathers, and so that means if you like thicker lathers, I think face lathering is a little easier to do because you've got more concentrate on your brush. But if you got really wet lathers on your brush, less will fit on your brush because it's so wet it just kind of falls off. You saw it flinging everywhere. Less lather will actually stay on your brush to last until you get to the third pass. All right, how does this feel? Nice and slick. So it's doing its job even though it's kind of thin. Man, but I do love the scent, man. This is good. So, kind of a normal face lather. Pretty much a fail today in terms of feeling good about the shave, my face feeling good with the lather. But in terms of hair cutting, it worked well. This is a new balm I got in recently and bought it at a big box store. And it really did a good job on me yesterday, and I realized I didn't have to use very much. So let's see if I do a little better job at estimating today. Face is still wet, so it's going on nice and easy. And I definitely wanted a balm instead of an aftershave splash because of the scraping that I did on my face. Definitely not as kind as most of my other razors. This is just an aggressive razor, and I was trying to figure out a way to make it a little smoother, and it did not work. So maybe we'll try a thicker shim. Maybe I'll have an easier time cutting a piece of plastic instead of the metal, which is tricky. Who knows? Even though I did shake a lot of the water out of this knot, it still could be that these tips are so soft that I needed to load for longer and probably drier as well. So maybe next time shake a little bit more out of the brush to try to get more soap on it. That's the only guess I can think of. I may try that, I may not. So just rinsing this guy out. It's winter time and the tap water is cold, and with dense knots like this, I definitely recommend bringing in some hot if you can to be able to rinse in warm water, and it will speed up your rinsing and cleaning. You do want to get all that soap out. Got to prevent that mildew and buildup of soap in the middle of the knot there will damage the bristles, cause them to break prematurely, things like that. Soap buildup, all those bad things. Yeah, face feels pretty good. That balm, man, I'm glad I had that on hand. Glad I got some of that recently. Now, the other balms I usually use, like Sterling or Soap Commander, I'm sure they would have done okay too, but just wanted to go ahead and try this guy. Well, for me at least right now, the face lathering does seem to save a few minutes, but I'd gladly give those few minutes to have a more enjoyable shave with a lather that I enjoyed so much more. If I was stuck with PDP and wanted to learn how to face lather it, I'm sure that would change everything if I practiced more and loaded it enough times to be able to just enjoy the shave more. And so I'm sure that's something that would come with practice. But for now, I think I'm going to go back to my bowl lathering and just enjoy that. Hide. Here's my Gillette Silver Blue that I shaved with. Pulled it off the razor. And then I'm turned it around. Here's a Gillette Platinum. See, because the shim, which is the platinum, came off with this blade. And so if you're a person who changes blades every 3 uses, every 7 uses, whatever, then be careful with your shim, because it perhaps could stick really closely to your existing blade, and you might throw away your shim and then be forced to go make another one. well, there we are. Time to go to bed. I believe the shim was just a bad shim, a poorly made shim, and I don't think I should use it to think that all shims are bad at all. So we'll try again with another shim, see what happens, some other time. And the brush felt terrific, so that part was great. The razor was affected by the shim, so I'm not really comment about that one. The soap didn't feel great because of the lather was just kind of inconsistent and splotchy and just not enjoyable. My skin has recovered in terms of the way it feels. I don't feel any irritation right now. It's one of the benefits of probably a 2-pass shave instead of a 3-pass. If you have kind of an aggressive razor, in this case it was just a scrapey razor because it didn't have the proper support that it needed. No fault of the dart. I think I've definitely gotten better shaves with the dart than this one. And so I think the shim actually made the dart a little worse, or not as good as it usually is. So, all right, well, at least the shave is close. Don't feel too much tenderness right now, but I expect that to go away. I just feel a tiny bit. I expect that to go away pretty quickly. All right, well, it was fun trying something new. Might try a shim again in the future. Maybe a thicker plastic one perhaps, but the goal here is if you've got the safety bar, the guard, or the base plate, and you've got the blade here, and then on top of that you've got the top cap. By putting in the shim between the blade and the top cap, you're raising the top cap just a bit, which decreases the exposure of the blade tip. That's what I was trying to achieve. And decreasing the exposure a little bit might really make a difference with this razor, since it's right on the line of aggression tolerance for me. All right, well, there we go. Just kind of fun playing around together today on both the lather fronts as well as the razor and blade fronts. So kind of a sciencey playground today. Hey, all right, there we go. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. I sure hope there's been something here that has helped you out in your shave. You take care. Good night.